Hey everyone, Gabe from Arcle here. Today, I'll be bringing you along for a full project redesign, all within Arcle. Let's get started. The project I chose to redesign today is a 2019 proposal for the Hudson Yards redevelopment project. As some of you might know, Hudson Yards is one of the largest real estate developments in the US and the largest one in New York since the Rockefeller Center. The site is 18 million square feet, which is really massive, and it's composed of two different blocks, one being the Eastern Yards and the other one being the Western Yards. The Eastern Yards is composed of a bunch of iconic buildings such as 50 Hudson, Ted Hudson, etc. And the Western Yards is the part of the site that is planned to be renovated the most. Right now it stands as a graveyard for New York City subway cars that are not used. And the plans are to redevelop this space into more of a residential area that's also mixed in with a lot of other uses such as office spaces and a school. One thing to keep in mind is that the High Line encircles both blocks, which is an important condition to keep in mind, and one thing I will be thinking about when redesigning this project. We're going to start this project by creating the preliminary masses for each of our different buildings in our site. Then we're going to create the different floors and assign the program through functions and area types. After that, we're going to go into metrics and we're going to assign a price to each of these different area types and functions. And finally, we're going to display our whole project through the board section. In different programs, we would have to use with other BIMs, I would have to open up a program for each section. One for boards, one for massing, and maybe another one for metrics and site context. But here, all the functions are grouped under one program and they talk to each other. The process is streamlined, it's faster, it's easier, and it's more visual than other BIMs. Let's get straight to it. So first thing I'm going to do is modify the site context size, so I have a bit more site context to work with, put it to 0.5. Right after that, once it's generated, I'm just going to pan around. I have a lot of nice buildings, but I don't think I'm going to use all of them, so I'm just going to delete a couple so I have a bit more space when it comes to building the site up, especially in the Western Yards portion. Once that's completed, I'm going to go around and create my site boundaries. There we go. And right after that, I'm going to click on 35 Hudson. That's going to be the first building I'm going to modify. And just look at the floor plan a bit so I can get a bit of dimensions and just note them down for once I recreate the building. Because I'm not going to use these generated structures, I'm going to delete them and recreate them my own way so I can have a nice floor plan and so I could actually put some functions on the floors. Just going to get some dimensions down. These are going to be pretty rough, not exact. I'm getting this information from, publicly available floor plans. So I'm being kind of slightly random with my dimensions, but it should be pretty accurate. Once I have a floor base, I'm going to extrude it up to 1,000 feet. It doesn't need to be accurate at this point. I'm going to modify the height afterwards once I create floors. So 1,000 is fine. I have a piece of building sticking out there. I'm going to push it up afterwards, but first let's do the floors. Each floor is going to be 14 feet high and there are 77 floors. That looks right to me. I'm not going to, as you can see, there isn't the actual kind of footprint of the building yet. I'm going to do that afterwards when I change the floor plans, but first let's bring this building up a bit. I'm going to use a move tool, lock it on the Z-axis so it doesn't move anywhere else, and just push it up so that it barely sticks out of the bottom. And just checking if that looks flush. That looks pretty good to me. And let's get to designing the floors. I'm going to press Shift on my keyboard and just select a bunch of floors so I can assign them a specific floor plan. Press the floors, press a plus. I'm going to name this one F1 to F8. There we go. Now I'm going to look at the floor plates so I can modify the actual look of my building. I see on the pictures that there's this sort of outline, sort of courtyard that's created at the 9th floor. So I'm just going to create a square, and normally if I delete this part and I go into my 3D view, there we go, we have a nice indent, so the facade of the building is starting to be built. After that, I'm going to go in my other floors and do the same thing. This one, I actually underlaid the bottom floor, which allows me to line up perfectly each floors. So you can see I have a nice edge that's kind of going along. And there we go, it's looking very nice for now. After that, I'm going to create the very top portion, but first I want to see the fillet tool, if it looks nice. The side of 35 Hudson is kind of like curved, and I'm going to check if the 30-foot fillet looks pretty accurate. So that looks pretty good to me. I think it'll be nice for the actual massing. Now let's go to the top of the building. This top floor has a sort of weird X shape to it, which I don't know yet how I'm going to design. I think I'm going to make it the same way that I made the edges of the building. I mean, it's curved. I'm just going to use a fillet tool to sort of make a spinner shape. It's kind of what it looks like to me. Building, I'm going to create like a sort of X shape. I think the way I'm going to do this is just to create a diamond inside of a square, and I'm just going to be looking for midpoints. I have the lower floor underlaid, so I can kind of have the arms of the spinny shape lined up with the edges of the building. Right now it's a bit small, so I think I'm just going to drag these lines a bit further out so that they can match with the edge of the building. I'm going to make those 35 feet. I can always change it later, but there we go. And make these a bit thicker. Go back to the mid lines. And I think the next thing I'm going to do, just delete those, I think I'm going to fillet the edges of that spinny shape to match the filleted edges in the real building. There we go. And I think that'll look pretty accurate in terms of recreating the original 35 Hudson. Let's see how that looks. This is pretty good. There we go. A bit tall, but I think it looks good. I think it looks pretty accurate. Next up, I'm going to work on 15 Hudson, which is right below. Let's start with the floor plates, feet, 45. There we go. Run a 3D view. I'm going to extrude that once again. It's mostly going to be the same thing for all these buildings, except for some minor adjustments. I'm going to create the floors, 70 floors that are 13 feet each. None of it is going through the bottom now. It's pretty good. I'm just going to hold control so I can select all of the floors that I want to, and just instantly assign them a floor. There we go. Once I modify one of these floors, it'll modify all the floors above. You guys saw that for 35 Hudson. And this building is pretty simple. The shape, the silhouette of the building is the same. On the left side of my views, I'm going to change the name of the building just so I can keep track. And you're going to see later on when I put labels, it'll be kind of interesting so I can know which building is which. Because I'm not that familiar with New York. I don't know these buildings by heart, even if I saw them in real life. So I need the labels. For the top of the building, there's kind of like this double heart shape. That's the only way I can kind of describe it, maybe an 8. So what I'm doing here is just creating, like looking for midpoints. which is pretty useful. Kind of similar to having the ortho on different programs. And I'm just going to create kind of like a blocky version of the original floor kind of shape. And afterwards, I'm going to do the same thing that I did for 35 Hudson. I'm going to fillet the edges so that it looks more heart-shaped. And I'm just going to delete the excess lines. So we have our preliminary kind of low poly version of the top floor. I'm just going to delete the lines in the middle, and there we go. I'm going to underlay the other floor plan, and now I'm going to go ahead and just fillet the tips of these hearts. And right now it doesn't really look like hearts yet, but if I fix my lines a bit and just match them to the top, that already looks a bit better. And let's go for the last ones. There we go. For the side lines, right now it still doesn't look like a heart a lot, so what I'm going to do is between these 2 points, I'm going to create a line. There we go. And I'm going to look for a midpoint, and if I just drag that, it's going to give me a possibility to fillet that once again. There we go, just match them, and now we get beautiful curves, and it kind of looks like a heart. I think it's going to look pretty accurate. Let's keep doing that for the rest of the lines. There we go. Just match them. Yeah, let's do it for last two. Boom, boom. Can't do what they want. And last one. There we go. Let's go into free view and see what that looks like. And perfect. Looks even more accurate with the 35 Hudson. I'm pretty proud of that. Next, we're going to tackle 10 Hudson. So this is a particular floor plan, in which I think I'm going to do an angle, just like this one. The special thing about this floor plan is that it has like kind of like different like stages to it, kind of similar to 35. So I'm just going to do the base one first and count for all the little kind of like edges that it has. And once again, I'm just going to extrude it, just like I did for all of them. The way I design all these buildings is mostly going to be the same. There's a lot of people that kind of just go the raw building height of the extrusion. I think it's easier when you calculate the floors by, like, you multiply the amount of floors that you have by the height of your floors to get the final result of your building's height. Now that I have my floors, I think I'm going to edit this because that's not right. There we go. And I'm just going to be assigning each floor their proper floor plan. Just like so. There we go. When I have all my floor plans done, I'm going to go to this one, 24 to 32, and I'm going to edit it in a way where a small indent is made and it stays for only the bottom floors. Like that. And I'm going to go for the top one and just underlay the previous floor so that I have a reference of where to go. And the good thing about these underlays is that it lines automatically snap. So I don't need to, there's no orthos, there's no need to turn on a special tool or whatever. Just automatically snaps, and I'm able to get perfect dimensions every single time. And now for the very top, it's just a straight line. There we go. And I'm just going to delete the extra lines. And that should be good. Let's go into 3D view and let's look around, and boom, looks perfect. It's pretty accurate. And now I'm going to get over to the shops at Hudson. So there's already a preliminary kind of like building plan. I'm going to stay with this for now, but I might change it later on. Let's put in some floors. I think I'm going to do a different floor plan for each floor. Not quite sure how to tackle this one. Let's just do that for now. And there's not that much information on the different floor plans of floors of this building specifically, because this is one of the new developments, and since a project is a urban fabric project, the buildings themselves are not that publicly available. So I'm kind of designing by eye here, and I see a little indents in the plan, so I'm just going to recreate that on my side. And I also see there's a huge atrium kind of space on the floor plans, and I'd like to recreate that, but on the renders it looks different. So I'm going to see if I keep that for now. I might just distinguish it with a different function. There's multiple ways to tackle this, but for now I think I'll just make it an open space and see how that looks. It doesn't look too accurate to the original, but it is what the floor plans say, so I'm tempted to go with that. The atrium goes all the way, so I'm just going to select the other floors, and I am going to assign them the same floor plan as I had for the original one. There we go. And I think that's it for now. So we're tackling 50 Hudson, and this is the same basic operation as for every single other building. I'm just going to select some of the floors. All I'm doing every time is just creating my mass, adding my floors, selecting the floors that are different from one another. The way I distinguish my floor plans in the view is by differentiation of either function or of shape of a floor plan, which is pretty standard. And for this one first, since I'm not doing function right now, I'm going to edit the functions later on. I'm just going for differentiations in the actual look and layout of a floor plan. So I'm just selecting floors by that. For buildings that are just straight towers with no floor plan differentiation, and just make a single floor plan for every single floor and just leave it at that. And later on afterwards, when I need to distinguish the lobby from the mechanical spaces, from the office spaces, I will be going back and changing the floor plans accordingly, which is an easy operation. It's not that hard. Here for 50 Hudson, I'm going to fillet the angles because it's basically a kind of like tapers up in some places. So I'm going to do an offset, sorry, not a fillet, 10-foot offsets on the other top floors. Let's go into 3D view and see how that looks. Looks pretty good. And let's go to the top floors and do this little kind of mezzanine little terrace space. I don't really know what it is. I'd love to visit these buildings to know exactly what kind of space it is. But there you go. Next up we have 55 Hudson, which has this very nice top, which I'll see if I recreate. It doesn't serve any kind of purpose in the massing. I wouldn't make it a floor, so I don't think I'll bother recreating that. And we're just going to focus on creating the actual useful massing, in which I'll be able to do floor plans. This one seems like pretty straightforward, pretty straight tower. So once again, I'm just going to create a base plate, just like always, never change. And there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and extrude. There we go. And that's basically it. I am still going to play around with the floors. I see on the images that these floors could be different. First, let's rename this building in view, just to make it easier for me to find these buildings afterwards. And looks like this one. All right. Going to fillet the angles, offset the angles, I'm sorry. Keep getting confused between the two. And there we go. Go back into 3D view. And that looks decently accurate. Pretty happy about how that looks. Now we're gonna get into designing 30 Hudson, which acts as kind of a sandwich for the shops. I believe there is an entrance to the shops and restaurants at Hudson Yards from 30 Hudson, and it's just going to be a simple kind of a rectangular floor plan at the beginning. Once again, doing the same operations with extruding floors, etc. The bottom floors are bigger, so I'm going to change the heights on those. And I'm just going to be assigning, once again, the different floors per, well, depending on the shape of a floor plan. And what I like to do afterwards is, if you notice on the left-hand side, I like to organize my floor plans from bottom to top, which I think just looks nice. I've been told by many architects that being organized is really, really important. Not only when it comes to saving your files. I know that a bit too much as a student, and I'm not very good at it. So trying to practice organizing my projects as good as possible to make it clean, and also just readable for other people that want to look at my project. Here I'm doing the same thing. I'm just creating these kinds of steps that are differentiated into floors. There we go. The top floors are a bit taller. So I did, and there you go. That's 30 Hudson. Pretty plain and simple. And now we're finally gonna get to the Western Yards. Getting to redesign this kind of subway car graveyard that is overlooked by the High Line. And first we're going to get to this building, which is a purely residential space, if I remember properly. Recheck, yes it is. And once again, I'm just basing myself off what I see on the graphics. There's not any specific dimensions for any of these buildings. So I'm going by eye here, and I'm going to be designing on the right. You can see the residential and office space building. Here we're going to get to a purely residential tower, and also I do not have any heights for these buildings. I'm thinking of keeping them pretty low to the ground so that it doesn't kind of act as a canopy for the gardens on the bottom. I think it would be kind of, sad to have all these huge high-rise buildings just shielding this beautiful garden. I think keeping the space pretty clear could match with the visions of a city. You don't want the people on the High Line to just be canopied by these buildings. So here I just created the base plate for all the buildings. I'm going to get to designing these, same thing as every time. It's basically arbitrary. I choose how much floors I want to put for each project, so I'm not going to make them too high. This is the school and residential space. Super interesting space, by the way. There's like two residential kind of like buildings that are sandwiching, once again, a school, it looks like, which I find very interesting. I don't think I've ever seen that ever in a project. So the way I'm going to do this is just by creating a line in the middle. I'm going to offset it because I see this kind of like bridge condition on the top floors, which I think is kind of interesting. And we're going to try to recreate it as good as I can. You can see me using the offset tool a lot to create kind of square spaces. I think it's just easier for me. You know, it's one click, just click on offset, and then you can just offset the lines. And afterwards, when it's messy, you can just delete the lines that you don't need. You're gonna see me doing that a lot when I'm gonna create the actual functions for floor plans. I'm not gonna go too much in detail. The office spaces, I'm not gonna model exactly, you know, cubicle by cubicle. But when it comes to the core, the elevator cores, and the mechanical spaces and the support spaces, I'm going to try to separate those from the actual kind of main function program of the building. So here I'm just going to keep editing this. The way I kind of see these floor plans is a sort of stepped like condition. It like gets more tapered off as it goes to the top, which could indicate that they're towers. I mean, it could, but I think it's more interesting if they have less, you know, floors, especially for a school. I don't think I've ever seen a school that's in a tower, you know, and I don't see the point of that. I don't think they need that much space. There's already a lot of square footage on the floor. I think it's more interesting if we just keep it low to the ground. And there we go. Now we have our sort of almost a dumbbell shape when you look at it for plan. And what I'm going to do is first I'm going to rename that, and there we go. After that, I'm working on the top floors, which kind of taper off. Once again, they have similar shapes, the top of these buildings, which is cool. It kind of matches the look. And now I'm going to be skipping quickly over these different buildings because I don't think the design of it is very interesting to see. All I'm going to do is do the same operations as I did every time, just extruding these buildings, creating the floors. We've seen this a lot already. And yeah, I'm just going to make the residential tower in the back a bit taller because I imagine that being a bit taller. There's two residential towers kind of like facing each other. I think that making these a bit short would be a waste of square footage. And yeah, I'm just designing all these buildings. The bottom floors are kind of arbitrary. I choose how much bottom floors I want, but the top floors, I believe, are kind of what the architects envisioned at the beginning. Just like this tapering off, like kind of stepped approach. I think it looks pretty good. We're gonna see it more as I create the function for these buildings. And here I'm creating the pavilion, which is very simple, but I think it's an interesting opportunity to see how to make curved floor plans on ArcCall. We do have a curve tool, which is nice to use, and it's basically the same as using any other line tool. It's just using curves, and the floor plans kind of just measure themselves. There we go. I can just do this, and there you go. It's perfectly created. That way we have all our building masses created and the floors created and the overall shape. We're going to get to creating the different functions inside the floor plans, which is going to be fun. We're going to start right here with Hudson 55. And the first thing I'm going to do for each of these floor plans is create the core, which I think, well, you know, arguably is the most important part of the building. I'm going to first rename these floor plans because for some reason they were not renamed. Made a mistake right there. And also, this is when you're going to see me creating new floor plans to match the kind of different programming of different floors. I haven't made the lobbies for any of the buildings yet, And these lobbies need to be separate floor plans. Some of them are 2 stories high, some are only 1 story. So I'm gonna have to be doing that, and also I have to be designing the mechanical floors. So that'll come afterwards. This, once again, I am basing myself off the available floor plan information, which is conceptually kind of accurate. But once again, I don't have any dimensions to go off of. So I'm just looking at these floor plans available online and looking where I see stairs, where I see elevator cores, and just placing them accordingly. You're going to see me using, again, a lot of the offset tool to create kind of these boxes that are nicely spaced out. It's just easier and faster to do. And I'm going to be assigning them different functions. So these spaces, first of all, that's one thing that's also great, is I can copy these different spaces on every single floor that I created. So I don't need to create elevator cores and recreate them in every single floor. I can just create my core, right click to copy on every other floor, and there we go. It's just instantly easier to create your floor plans. And here I'm just going to play a bit with the different shape. Yeah, there we go, core. Later on, I'll show you how to create different functions and different area types within these functions, which is very useful when you need to create spaces that are kind of only to your building. I'll be creating a lobby function at some point. I'll be creating a circulation function and all these other things, maybe a recreational. I'm thinking for some of these floors. I know there's an Equinox gym in one of these buildings, so I could add a recreational level for some of these. And yeah, if I wanted to for the school, I could be adding different classrooms, and for the residential units, I could be separating them into bedrooms. I will not be doing that due to the fact that I simply do not know what these residential spaces are. On the right, you can see the different residential spaces: studio, 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom. Those are the ones that are already in the program, so I don't need to add these. And yeah, I could if I wanted to, but I feel like it'd be too tedious, and it wouldn't give us, a lot of information, especially since I'm already kind of winging it in terms of dimensions for most of these buildings. I don't want to be extra winging it by making up the room plan of some of these residential spaces. The good thing is that for most of these buildings on Eastern Yards, they are office buildings, which makes my life easier because I can just create the core, the support, and mechanical space, as you can see here, which I copied through the whole floors. And I can just make the purple, which is the office space that I created. And I'm just going to be closing off that space in between the mechanicals and just making that a corridor, because I think that's more accurate and makes it look nice. Now we're going to get to a building that I completely forgot that I needed to do. It's the shed. The shed, which I believe is a very simple building. Once again, I got nothing to base myself off of. I don't even know what program is building, but I'm guessing a shed. I'm imagining maybe a sports area, So I'm gonna make this a 1-story, maybe 2-story height space, and I'm already imagining maybe some paddle, maybe some indoor tennis fields right here. Once again, I have no idea what's in these buildings, but I'm just having fun with what I can imagine. It's very simple in terms of how the space is laid out. It's just going to be simply extruded, creating some floors. As you can see, also I created some labels for my buildings. So right now I'm still building one because I have not added a name to the shed yet, but that will be the shed in due time. On the left, you can see all my different buildings are perfectly organized. For the Western Yards buildings, I just call them residential and slash for different kind of programming, because I do not have any name for them, and I could be creating names for them. I'll think about that. Maybe I will, but I think it's easier for me if I just keep them as a number. Here, we're going to be renaming the shed. There we go, perfect. Only one floor. Very simple in terms of programming. And there you go. Now that I turn on all the different tags, you can see how the labels kind of connect. I don't need to look on the left to see which building is what. I can just look on my 3D view and I can see all my buildings in real time. Now we're going to get to what we're seeing here is 50 Hudson, creating a floor plan for that. I could see on the floor plan that there are retail spaces and commercial spaces that are part of the first floor, part of the lobby. I don't know where they are, so I'm just going to place them where I think they are. This is a neat view, which, by the way, I'm accredited for having this view right here. It basically highlights only the different area type and site area that you want highlighted. And here I highlighted that because I accidentally put my circulation space as a site function, which makes it kind of harder for me to look through. And this makes sense, circulation is a building function. So I'm going to change that right now, circulation, and you can do this straight on the metrics tab, and you can also change colors. I'm going to make circulation pink because I think that's a nice color for circulation. That's usually what I have it as. Might change the colors of these different functions at some point. I am pretty happy with the orange as mechanical. I think it looks nice. And once again, I am basing myself off of external information to know where the mechanical floors are and what makes sense to me. Now we are going to keep working on all these different floors. Here we have 35 Hudson, which once again seems to be mostly an office space building. Most of this block is just like office buildings, so it makes it kind of easier for me in terms of the layouts. And actually, it seems to be residential, so it's great. There we go. That must be an insane rooftop on the 35 Hudson. I would love to visit it sometime. And here you can see me working on the 30 Hudson, and then the retail pavilion, which is easy. It's just a retail space. I'm not going to go deeper in detail with that. Off to the 15 Hudson next to the shed. It's a beautiful kind of hard top, and we will be creating a recreational subdivision right here, because I believe this space is a kind of like a sky top, like you can go out and it's fully glassed and you can look around the great views in New York. And we'll get to a shed, which is also a recreational space because I want it to be sports fields, which I think would be super fun, especially when you come out of the office and you want to play a game of paddle or of tennis, or basketball. Just come in and play in the warmth, especially now that it's super cold. But anyways, let's get back to designing the floor plans of these buildings. Here we have 10 Hudson being also office spaces. Very intricate kind of core there. And finally, the shops and restaurants at Hudson Yards, which I decided to cover up because I think it makes more sense. Matches more of a floor plan. And now we're going to get to the Western Yards, what I designed personally. These are mostly going to be residential spaces, as you can see with the two towers in the back. I made the top floors mechanical because that makes the most sense to me. I feel like that's decently standard in most buildings. For this funny shaped one that's actually covering the High Line, which I find very interesting. I kind of imagine there being a hole inside of this building in which the passerbys can go through. This building is fully residential, so that makes it easier on me. And also it's a small kind of like footprint. I'm kind of curious how the different apartment units can look there. And finally, we're going to get to the school/residential building with the kind of sky bridge that connects the two. Here I had a couple of problems in regards to creating the floor plans. I'm kind of bugged out because of my misplacement of things. When it's all cool, we're going to get to it and just have this residential space that kind of flanks the school zone, which once again is very unique. I kind of don't know how that would work, and it would be very convenient for your kids to just be able to go from the residential space to a school immediately. But I do think that the commute from residential space to a school is part of the experience. So just going from that to that, like all indoors, it's kind of concerning. I don't know how I feel about that, but we're gonna keep through it. The building to the right, office and residential space 5 is gonna be fully just purple because it's fully office spaces. And I modeled the cores on purpose on the top floor so that they line up perfectly. I've had multiple moments in the past where I lined up or created the building cores on the bottom floor and they don't reach the top floor, which doesn't make sense. You know, how are you going to get to the top floor? So it's much easier to do it that way. And here for the last residential, I'm going to complete that with a mechanical form of the top and just going to be, once again, copying these cores to the bottom floors. As you can see, the problem I was just telling you about with the cores kind of bleeding out has happened. So I'm just going to delete that. It's no big deal. And there we go. We have our beautiful spaces completed. Full of color now. I like my designs to be full of color. And the functions look good. So next up, we're going to get to the metrics and edit those a bit. Now that I have all my different masking made, I'm going to start playing with the metrics of my building a bit, my buildings. As you can see on the right, I have a bunch of different metrics for my site. You have a different square footage area. Let's cover my site. That's one for building, for the area functions, a bunch of the area types. Bottom, and it just keeps going and going until we get to costs. Now costs is not covered right now, as you can see. That's because they didn't set any costs for any functions and did not set a budget either. So we're going to do that right now. I'm going to press on this little button, and as you can see, there's a bunch of different price metrics that I can set up. I've got budget, I've got the actual site, I can set prices for site functions, for building functions, etc., etc. I am only going to be playing with building functions for now, and you're going to see it develop in real time on the right-hand side. And it's mostly everything we need for to calculate the actual price metrics of our site. So I'm going to go ahead and just play a bit with the different prices. Let's do $250 for academic. I'm gonna do a bit cheaper for circulation. Let's do $175. Let's do commercial. I'm gonna guess mostly the same as academic. Industrials on my mechanical may get a bit more expensive. Recreational to $225 to $75. It's just a bit more expensive. And support's gonna be on my bathrooms and stuff like that. I need extra plumbing, so I'm going to 300. Again, quite arbitrary, but we get to almost $4 billion. It's interesting. I've never worked on a site this expensive. But yeah, that's what metrics does. In the bottom, you also have the carbon metrics, which is not released yet, but will be soon. Little sneak peek. And there's also different metrics you can add in here that I'm not playing with. You have parking, which is also interesting. We don't have any parking on our site, but if we did, we would have to use that. And project metrics, you can also do calculate area type metrics, and it calculates how much parking you would need for your whole site. So here you see that we would need about 4,200 parking spots at a minimum, as it's calculated. In the View tab, for you guys that are interested, I am going to be playing with that a bit after, but there's a bunch of different stuff that you can play with. You can play with shadows. You can play with setting different perspectives if you have a big building that has an like it needs a north of section, sorry, or top-down views, etc. And you can also add different map layouts. You can also upload some at the bottom for map layers. Just press here. We have a couple already pre-made, which are nice to have if you want to do some site analyses, if you are in a flood zone or something like that. Now that I have my metrics done, I'm going to go to boards. This is one thing that I like. You don't need to go in InDesign if you want to create a presentation. Just go here, press on sheets. You have different sheet sizes. I'm going to go with tabloid. Here you can also change the dimensions of your sheet or create a custom sheet if you want to just create sheets for specific means. I'm going to stay with this, and to create new sheets you could press on the sheet button, but what I like to do is just control paste, which is much faster. For my first title page, I want to put a title, so I'm going to put in text, press right here, and let's do Hudson Yards. If I highlight that and just change the font on the right, I can change a bunch of stuff, as you can see, make it bold, not for this font, but if you need to make it bold, I'm going to make it 60, and let's just move it right here. I like to add graphical elements to some of my boards, so I'm just going to do like a line. If your line is easy. This one, there we go. And that already looks like something. It's going to be my title for now. Now, if you want to add a view or populate these boards overall, it's really simple. It's as easy as just dragging your view onto here, and it automatically drags it. If you change it, it's going to change in real time. I can say views right here. You can see it just changes in real time, which is really cool. And for this page, I want a nice plan of all my buildings. I'm going to press here to create a new view, and I'm going to save it. Once it's saved, I'm just going to drag it here, and boom, I have a nice view of all my buildings. On the right, I can add floor plans directly onto my sheet. So the buildings I'm going to use are, which one's an interesting building? I think we should go with 50 Hudson. I'm going to do this plan first. And once I have my plan ready to move onto my board, first I'm going to change the size of the different text. I want it to be pretty small. On the right, you can also see I can hide different aspects of it, which is cool. Once it's done, I'm going to save you right here, go back to my board, go back to 50 Hudson, but just drag this time. And there we go. Once it's here, I could change the scale. I'm going to put it to 132. And you can crop it to make it easier to select afterwards and move it. Which is what I'm going to do. There we go. Very nice. We have a floor plan. On the next sheet, I'm going to choose one of my residential buildings. Let's do the school. I'm going to choose this one. Same thing. Let's do open 6. I want to keep all the information, so I'm just going to save it here. Go back to boards. Go back to the school. And boom. Perfect. Crop it a bit. And there you go. Now for my last page, what I'm going to do is click right here, and here I can put in some metrics charts, which is very useful. I'm going to put it here right now. It's blank because I haven't selected anything. But if I drag my mouse to the bottom, you can see that there are different views I can select from. I'm going to choose 3D, and I'm just going to go in sources, and let's do area type counts. And as you can see, it just creates a board, a metrics chart for me to use. I'm going to drop dimensions to 32. And this, once again, is updated in real time. If I change my building in any way, it will change this metrics chart, so I don't have to go back and change my charts, etc. Just saves a lot of time, you know, especially for me as a student when I need to create metrics or site analyses and stuff like that. And if I need to go back and forth to my site, I do not need to change my my charts. They just change automatically. There's also different things you can do. You have the metrics tables, which are basically metrics charts, but you can add a bunch of information. Zoom in. A bunch of information on the same chart, the same table, basically. So if I just click here, I can just add columns. I'm going to just put one for now. And I'm going to show you, if you just click here, you can choose data to display, and it just displays it. So here is a lot of information, so important. The table is very large. That's basically metrics tables, which is very useful. I'm going to opt to not add one for this project, and instead, on the top of sheet, I want another nice view, and I'm going to choose a top view, just like so. I'm going to save it here, actually. Save it, go back to my boards, go to top views, and just drag it in. And I'm going to delete the background, which I think is really nice because you have kind of like the buildings just popping out of the image, which looks great in my opinion. And finally, for my title slide, I'm going to create a new custom view, which is going to be a 3D view, and I want a view that's low to the ground, maybe just like this. There we go. For this view, I do not want any labels, and let's play around with different stuff you can do with view. I want this to be an end of day. Look at that. It just looks beautiful. End of day view. Some nice light. And I want the background to be colored, which I can do that simply by clicking styles. And here I can change a bunch of stuff about the view. I'm going to go in scenes, backgrounds, and let's do a very nice blue. Some models. A nice blue sky. It's going to be nice. Just like that. There we go. Now I'm going to save everything right here. And actually, for that, I want a light background, which looks much light. Kind of like view map, which looks much better in my opinion. Let's go back here, custom views. Oh, I can do this in 3D. I can do this in 3D. So this is my 3D view. Boom. And I have a nice image. And there's my board. There we go. Now we've got boards, we've got metrics, we've got a whole project. I'm decently proud of myself. We weren't too close to the original view. This is more of my twist on the project. But I like how it turned out. I like how the residential space is low to the ground. Might not be optimal for, you know, getting the most out of your money, but I think it looks nice. And yeah, I'm pretty proud of this project, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching. And yeah, see you next time.